Hey finders, and welcome back to Fortune Finds. Today we're going to be doing another beauty roundup video, and this one is a little bit different because I'm not talking about makeup, I'm not talking about skincare, I'm not talking about empties. I'm talking about all of the brushes I love, I adore. When I sit down and do my makeup, most times I'll use like 5 to 6 brushes, but there's a ton in front of me. I have face brushes, I have eye brushes, I have brow brushes. Not all of these are expensive, not all of these are affordable. I would say this is a pretty good mix of the two. And while there are a ton of brushes here in front of me, some of them you can do a multitude of things with them, and I'll be sure to cover it. So if there's a brush here that you could do 5, 6, 7, 8 things with, I'm gonna let you know. So if you have subscribed and you've rung the bell, then let's go ahead and hop into the video. So first and foremost, I just wanna say you definitely do not need this many brushes. Having this many brushes is not necessary. Some might refer to it as excessive, but when it comes to makeup, I myself am a little excessive. But I'm showing you all of these brushes today because I want to make sure that I cover all of the brushes for all of the potential techniques that you're looking for a brush to do. If you want to do a wing, if you want to do like shading on your eyes, if you have smaller eyes like me, I'm showing you everything, okay? You can pick and choose. And honestly, guys, like some of these brushes are multi-purpose. You can use them for an array of things. And while I'm not technically applying them in those several different ways on my face today, I will walk you through them. So if you see a brush and you're like, wow, that looks really interesting, I want to buy that, but it might not be worth the price for only one step in my makeup, I will definitely run you through other steps that you can use with that brush. So I got you guys covered as always, and I feel like you guys are really going to enjoy this and learn a lot about different brushes and what they can do for you. You might have similar brushes, and this might just open your eyes as to the different ways you can use the brushes that you already have. So as you guys know, if you've been watching my most recent videos, I've been doing a lot of shading, contouring, bronzing underneath my foundation. And to do that, I've really been relying a lot on this brush. This is the IT Cosmetics Heavenly Luxe Complexion Perfection No. 7 brush. It has a foundation brush and a concealer brush. I think this is really good for foundation and concealer. I have a concealer brush that I'm going to mention that I think is a little bit better than this, but this will definitely get the job done and do both of those tasks really well for you. I will take the foundation side. I will hop into my D-Bronzy Anti-Pollution Sunshine Drops. This is basically just like a liquid bronzer. I'll put this on the back of my hand, pick it up with the fatter brush, the foundation brush, and I will push that into the hollows of my cheeks, all around the perimeter of my face, under my jaw and along my jawline, and then I will go ahead and once I have it where I want it, I will go and just push it into my skin and spread that out. I do go ahead and I take the same foundation brush and I will pick up my contour. So I use the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand. You guys know I love that, and I just basically do the same thing that I did with the bronzer, but I just keep this in the hollows of my face and keep it to the back of my face because I really want the contour to chisel my face and give me shading, while bronzer is meant to just make the whole complexion look bronzed. So when I push the contour into my skin, if a brush isn't soft enough or the bristles are just a little bit too sharp, it can go ahead and leave holes in the layers of your makeup, or it can go ahead and pick up the layer underneath. This does a really good job of making sure that all of the layers stay stacked on top of one another. I do use the concealer side, but I don't really use this for concealer. It's decent in terms of applying concealer, but I have a concealer brush that I love a little bit more than this one. But what I do use this for is I will take the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand and I will go ahead and just contour my nose with this side. This does a really good job. Again, it doesn't pick up the texture in my skin. It lays down the product really nicely, and it's just like the perfect shape for my nose contour. Now, I guess you could say I kind of have 3 foundation brushes in this video, but again, for different reasons, for different purposes, and for different techniques. So my second one that I'm going to mention that I use for this specific technique because it really works the best when layering and shading underneath my foundation, Mikasa F200, and it is just a really soft stippling brush. So what I do is I'll take my foundation, put it on the back of my hand, and then I'm basically going to press my foundation into my skin. And this is good because it's not really dense. Like I said, it's light and it doesn't pick up a lot of product. So it's going to give a really natural finish to the face, and it's not going to cancel out any of the shading that we've done. So it won't cancel out the bronzer. It won't cancel out the contour. It's just going to go over that section and just blend it in and make it look a little bit more natural, but you're still going to be able to see that shading once you're done applying your foundation. I find that if you go in with a dense brush like this, when doing that kind of technique, it will cancel out your foundation because this brush naturally picks up more pigmentation. The product sinks into this brush, so even when you think that there's not a lot, there's kind of more in the brush than you think there is. If you're just not interested in the shading underneath your foundation and you just want to know what an awesome foundation brush is, I mentioned the It Cosmetics one that will get you far, but my favorite brush, which is kind of pricey, this is the Hourglass foundation brush. If you are someone that likes a stick foundation, those tend to be a little bit more difficult to blend out. This will blend it out like a dream. It really won't fight back with you. I like this one more so for when I'm not doing shading underneath, when I'm just, going in with foundation as my first face product and then building the shading on top of my foundation. Put the foundation all over my face, then I'll use the same brush and do contour because kind of has like a nice little angle. It's small enough to really get into the hollows of my face. So I will use this with contour. I'll use this with bronzer. Another brush that I use for shading underneath my foundation is this guy right here. This is a Scott Barnes 60 brush. This is a lip brush and it is so good, guys. Like this is my favorite, the best lip brush, my favorite lip brush I've ever used. I will take some of that Hollywood contour wand, outline my lips, kind of like you would just line your lips with a lip liner, but I'm doing it with a brush and that liquid contour. So that's going to give a really soft contour to the lips. Now, I'm a little bit extra, especially when it comes to my lip contouring, because I want my lips to just look huge. So I do go ahead and use a powder contour with this, and I use the Scott Barnes Sculpting and Contour #1 palette. Take the shade Frame, and I will literally just go over that liquid contour that I put around my lips. I know we're talking about brushes here, but this powder palette is amazing. Like if you look at this powder around my lips, it packs the pigment and it looks like it is a liquid product. So this is really just gonna up the ante and make your lips look huge. You can do this technique and not use a lip liner, so you can just do the technique that I just mentioned. Throw on a lip gloss, throw on a lipstick and be done. You really don't need a lip liner. My concealer brush, which I feel like I've really hyped up, but you guys know I really love this one, especially if you watch my channel. This is the Sephora 57 brush. This is so good, and I really do have textured under eyes, and you can go ahead and pat the concealer underneath your eyes or swipe the concealer underneath your eyes, and it's not going to pick up any of that texture. It's not going to irritate underneath your eyes, and it's not going to take away any of that pigment. I've used brushes before where I've gone ahead and put my concealer on and then I went to go and swipe it out to really blend it, and it kind of like picks up too much of that concealer and kind of puts a hole in it. I can really push the concealer or my foundation into the sides of my nose, so you're not going to get it like breaking up here like you sometimes do. It's not going to cake because you're really going to push it in and blend it out. I get dark right in here, and this does a really good job of just getting right in there. And it's the perfect shape for me and my eye shape. I have pretty small eyes. I have a pretty small face in general, and it's going to cover up the darkness without like ruining the makeup that's on my brow or on my lid already if I do go and touch up my concealer after I've gone and done the majority of my face. This is my favorite powder brush. I love that it's fluffy. It's big, but it's not too big. It's like the perfect size, and it's tapered, so I can really get in there and lay down my powder, and it doesn't like pack the powder on there too much. It really diffuses it really nicely. Sometimes if you use a brush that's too dense and picks up too much powder, that's when you kind of run the risk of flashback. So when you take a picture and it looks like you have like a bright raccoon eye, this kind of brush just ensures that you pick up the right amount, lay it flat, and set your under eye. You can put some powder on the side and sculpt out the nose contour that you did, and the tapered end can also really get into the sides of your nose to go ahead and set that. You can go ahead and set the inner corner. This is just such a good brush, and it's such a good size, and it fits right in between my brows. You just kind of have to play with it. So if you lay it flat, it'll cover more surface. If you go to the side, it'll be a little bit more narrow and will cover a smaller surface. So I really like this. It's very soft. Oh, I didn't even say what it is. This is a Luxie 660. It's a precision foundation brush, but I prefer this more with powder. This is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH06. This is the best blush brush I've ever used. It's very small, but it has like a nice little angle and it just disperses the blush perfectly. I never leave the home and like realize that I'm wearing too much blush later on. And I like to do that W technique where you put the blush on the apples of the cheeks, bring it back, and then bring it across the nose just because that's where the sun naturally hits your face. And it doesn't look like a W, you know, it disperses it enough because it's really, really soft. It's not a dense brush, and it just makes it look really natural. Complex Culture Press and Set Bronzer. I love the shape of it. It's big, but it's also kind of narrow and it really gets in there. And how I use this is I'll take my bronzer and I will push it into my skin. I don't really swipe with this brush because I just find that when you push it, it places the product so perfectly. And I like a brush that disperses things nicely when you push it into your skin because again, in makeup, you work in different layers. When you swipe, you run the risk of moving the makeup that's already underneath that layer that you're currently working on. So if you push, you're not going to move the product. You're literally just pushing the product into your skin. And that also kind of just looks the most natural when you push the product into your skin rather than swipe it. I like this too because it's a nice shape to just run it underneath my jawline, to bring it down my neck, and to bring it down my chest if I just want like a nice little bronze moment. The shape of this, like when you go and you put it on an angle like that, it's really going to bronze your face. So it's going to give you that overall like nice golden complexion, but it's also going to further enhance your contour. It's so soft. I wish you guys could like feel this. You could also use this as a blush brush. You could just stamp like that. If you're someone that likes to contour using a powder, this is a really great brush and it's also affordable. This is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH05. It's this little dome dense brush, but what I love about this is the size because it's kind of like a little bit tapered. I don't know if you can see, it's like an eensy weensy bit tapered. So you can really push this into the hollows of your cheeks and it's just gonna enhance that contour and just get it where you really need it. I really like this. I think it does a really awesome job. It's the perfect size. I find that some contour brushes are just so big and fluffy that the contour ends up like dispersing too much and it kind of like ends up looking a little bit muddy. But this one you can really, like I said, place it where you need it and it's gonna blend it out really nicely too. This isn't like a really soft brush, so you do need to be a little bit careful if you're gonna go and swipe because it will leave brush marks if you're not careful enough and if you brush back and forth too hard. So I would just always recommend stamping. Moda Pro BMX 265 Glow Brush. I like a brush like this, a fluffy tapered brush to apply highlighter, and you can sweep with this, but I like to patting any kind of product lays down a little bit more pigment, so it's gonna make the highlighter a little bit brighter, a little bit more blinding. Highlights sometimes can look a little chunky on me because I do have very textured skin, especially in this area, but this brush really blends it out really nicely. It kind of just does the work for me. It has like enough bristles in it to disperse the product and really get in between any texture that you have. If you use a brush that's a little bit more scratchy, where the bristles are less soft and not as like dense, then that kind of makes you run the risk of your texture showing, whereas this one does a really nice job of not showing any of my texture. My nose kind of sits further back up top. I'll take some highlight and just run it across the very top bridge of my nose to bring that section of my nose forward because that does sit further back. And I just find that it sits really nice in there. It's like the perfect size and it covers the area that I need it to cover in minimal to no time. I've yet to find a brush that picks up pomade and disperses it as natural and beautiful as this brush. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they did. I think it's like a denser brush, so I feel like it just really, I don't know, it's just so good. One side is a spoolie and then one side is a little angled brush, and this works with any kind of pomade, not just a $1 billion brows one. If you're someone that likes to fill in your brows with a powder, say like an eyeshadow, which that's something that I personally do a lot. Mikasa, I don't know the number. I did check it online. It is still available, but I've used this so many times, guys, that you can't see the name of it, it's like disappeared because that's how much I love this brush. But the same kind of thing, angled brush like this, but this brush is a little bit fluffier. So I find that it disperses powder a little bit more natural than a denser brush like this would. And then it does have a spoolie on the other side. So I use this literally every time I fill in my brows using a powder product. It is by far the best powder eyebrow pencil ever. Billion Dollar Brows Smudge Brush. I have 2 different shaped brows. It's no secret. And sometimes, you know, I don't get the filling of my brows in right on the first shot, which is why I always go and clean them up afterwards. So I like something that has such a blunt end like this and is so small. It can really like help with the angles of multiple things. I use the Duo Brow Pencil from Billion Dollar Brows. I use the concealer side and I will outline my brows pretty much. And then I'll go in with this to just shade it out and blend it. This does a really nice job of blending out product underneath my brows because I can run it back and forth and then I can pull the shading down. It really gets in there. It really blends out the product and it helps me to get good angles on both brows so that I can make them look similar or more similar to one another. Moving on to eyes. You don't need this many brushes. Again, I'm just giving you a variety of brushes for a variety of techniques. I use the MAC Paint Really Paint Pot, or sometimes I'll just use a concealer, throw that over my lid, and that's kind of tacky and it's kind of sticky, and tacky surfaces don't help to blend eyeshadows out very well. So I always use a brush like this. This is a Vasanti brush. I will put the full name of it down below, but just a big fluffy brush like this. I'll just take a shade that's either translucent or matches my skin tone, hop into that shadow, and then I will just set my entire lid. That shadow will go ahead and take away any of the tackiness so that any shadow that I put over top of that will just blend out a little bit better. You can use this to help set your concealer. If you're someone that likes a lot of shine on your face, you like your skin to look dewy, or say you use a lot of cream products and you just want to set certain areas, this is like the perfect size to just pack on that powder without taking the shine away from anywhere else on your face. The best crease brush I have ever found, Scott Barnes 62 brush. I just love like how tapered it is at the end. That point will really pack the pigment where you want it. So you're going to be able to pinpoint where you want the pigment in your crease or anywhere else on your lid for that matter. Press a little bit harder and blend it out. This is just like such a good brush. I have smaller eyes too, and this just really gets in there. The tapered end is also really good for underneath your eyes to just go ahead and add a little bit of more depth underneath your eyes. I would definitely recommend this brush. It's so good and I don't think you would regret buying it. Morphe JH32 is just a simple blending brush and I always work with 2 blending brushes. It's a little bit bigger than the Scott Barnes one and it's not as tapered. So Scott Barnes, you're gonna lay down the shade and then blend it out, but this one is gonna blend it out just a little bit more, so it's gonna help to diffuse the shade even more, make it look a little bit more natural. Just blend, blend, blend. You don't need to get this brush, but Morphe has a ton of blending brushes, whether it's from the Jaclyn Hill line, their basic line, any of their lines. Just get a brush like this and you are all set. Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH41, it's really the shape for me. So you can get a lot of angles out of a brush depending on how you hold the brush. If I'm applying something that has a little bit of a sheen or metallic to it, I will go ahead and spritz this brush with some setting spray, hop into the shadow with the dampness on my brush, and then I will pat it onto my lid using this brush. This kind of has a really pointy end and a sharp edge. It's just a really good precision brush. You can pack pigment on the lid. You can go ahead and do a cut crease with shadow. You can lay some highlight in the inner corner and you can also put some highlight on the brow bone. If you did a wing like I did today, you could also take some concealer on the edge of this brush and just go ahead and clean up the wing. You can use this for an array of things. Any of the brushes that I mentioned today you can use for an array of things. I'm being excessive. That's it. Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH43. You can really push it into the lashes and it's going to make your eyes look a little bit more intense. It's going to make you look like you have more lashes than you do. It's really just going to draw attention, more attention to your lashes and just overall more attention to your eyes. You can go ahead and use this to create a wing. I will just outline my entire lash line and then pull this out like this and connect it like that and draw a wing. But I have another brush that I do want to mention, Mikasa E110. So I picked up a brown shadow and I just literally took that on the outer corner of my eye, pulled it out into a wing and then brought it back in. And I also use this brush to get into the inner corner of my eye. I like to use a small brush like this and really get in there because I do naturally have almond eyes. So if I bring any of the liner up too high, it's gonna round out my eye. If you are someone that wants a rounder eye, you can take this brush that I already mentioned and just pat that all along and even bring it into the inner corner of your eye, and it's just gonna make your eye look a little bit more round and dough-like. I decided that I wanted to build the wing up and make it more of like a thicker wing on the outside and kind of like a straight wing. To do that, I use this brush, which is also a really great detailing brush, and it's also Morphe and Jaclyn Hill. So, Morphe Jaclyn Hill, you want to sponsor this video? I think you should. JH42, it's just like a really, really small flat brush. Because I wanted to make that wing a little bit darker, I went ahead and I put shadow on the tip of the brush and a little bit on the side of the brush, and I kind of just brought it in. This is really good for really tight lines and detailing, but it's also really good for shading. Go in straight and create a line, and then you can go in flat and fill it in. You can also use this for detailing, such as like highlighting the brow bone, highlighting the inner corner, lay pigment down underneath the eye as well. Say later on my makeup started to fade and I wanted to go in and just make this a little bit darker, this is the brush I would do that with. Pick up some brown shadow and just go in and lay down a little bit more shadow over where the shadow is right now. Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH40. I just like this because it's small, and again, I have those really small eyes, so whenever I want to just blend out the outer corner of my eye, this is really good because it just stays in one place. It's not going to fluff shadow everywhere. It's just going to stay really precisely because it is so small. I can just take a dab of a shade and then go like this, and it's gonna just deepen up the crease ever so slightly. Regardless of your eye shape, it's always good to have a small blending brush like this just for detailing. You can find a dome pencil brush like this pretty much anywhere. I'm sure you could go to your local Rite Aid, CVS, drugstore, whatever, and find one just like this, but this specific one is the Morphe Jaclyn Hill 39. And I recently discovered a really awesome way to brighten up my inner corner. So what I do is I'll pick up a highlighter with this brush and I will pat it right where I'm very dark on the inner portion of my eye, so right here. And then I'll take some and pat it right underneath the inner corner of my eye as well. And add a little bit of light underneath my brow just to make my brow bone pop. I've talked about this brush several times before, but it deserves another mention. This is the Morphe M432. This is like my cleanup brush. I don't think you need both, but I'm gonna tell you the difference between these two. So they look the same, right? This one is not as fat. It kind of is a little bit pointier. Can you see that this one is tighter and much skinnier and narrow than this one? So what this one does is it does a really good job of picking up concealer and cleaning up anything. So I always use this when I wear a red lip or a bold lip, just anything that isn't nude, because lips like that, if you make a mistake, it's easier to see the mistake. So what I will do is I'll put some concealer on the back of my hand, I'll pick up that concealer, and then I will go ahead and just carve out my lips and take away any of the lip product that kind of got out of whack. I also did go ahead and take that same concealer and clean up the outer portion of my wing just to make it look a little bit cleaner, just to make it pop a little bit more. I was using this to shape my brows before getting the Smudge brush from Billion Dollar Brow, so this is a great multi-purpose brush. They could all do the same thing, but I'm just really picky, and this one is so skinny that I like to clean up with it, while this one is a little bit fluffier, so it's good to put a shadow on, and then this one is a little bit longer, but it's really good to help shape the brows. If you are just like, I just want to buy like the bare minimum amount of brushes and I don't need all of this to do, I would suggest 2 blending brushes, a flat shadow brush, and a smaller blending brush. And you can really get away with just these 4 brushes. But again, I'm a little high maintenance. I'm sure some of you out there are a little bit more high maintenance. And it's easier to get detailing work done with the right tools. So the smaller the tool, the more detail you can get out of the tool and the more precise you can be. All right, guys, and that concludes my brush roundup video. I know we covered an array of brushes. There was a lot that we went through today. So if you have any questions about any of them that I mentioned, leave them down below in the comment section. I would love to help you guys out. If you have a brush that you think I need to check out, or a product, any kind of tool that you think I need to know about, leave it down below. I love to check out your recommendations and products that you guys are loving. It makes my day just talking to you guys. So anything you want to talk about, leave it down below in the comments section. If you have a video request that you would like to see from me, let me know. If you have an idea of what you would like my next beauty roundup to be, let me know. I'm thinking I want to do like a roundup of all of my foundations where I run you guys through all of my higher end foundations in one video, and then I run you through all of my drugstore affordable foundations. So if that sounds interesting to you, let me know. I can definitely do that for you guys. If you did enjoy this video, let me know by leaving it a thumbs up. I would love to know whether or not you enjoyed this, and also make sure that you subscribe and ring the bell before you leave. I had a great time as always. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, Finders. Mwah.